I am affirmations do not work, and for the record, nor do any positive affirmations of statement form. The only way that they would work is if we didn't have a human brain, and if you're watching this video, I suspect that you probably have a human brain, and you can't get around that. And human brains are wired in a particular way, and they're wired to handle statements such as I am confident, I am abundant, I am wealthy. We're wired to handle those statements in a specific way, and I will prove that I am affirmations don't work in under 2 minutes in this video. Now, before I do, I just want to point out I'm not for any second suggesting that the law of attraction isn't real. You know, there's lots of people like Dr. Joe Dispenza and his team of scientists, for example, that are gathering scientific data that actually are now proving things like manifestation are very real. Quantum mechanics supports manifestation and law of attraction. I'm a big proponent of the law of attraction. However, affirmations, they will only work if they are done correctly. And statement-based affirmations and typical I am affirmations are not done correctly, and they will actually cause you to manifest more of lack than abundance. So I'll prove it right now. I'll give you an example. Let's imagine that this was a pot of red paint. Right now, I don't have any red paint here. However, I do have a red Yankee candle, so we're going to work with this prop as red paint. Now, if I said to you, this paint is purple, you're going to take that statement, your brain is going to take that statement, and it's going to filter it against your past experiences. And it's going to determine that actually this paint is not purple, this paint is red. We know that this is the colour red because we've learnt repeatedly that this is the colour red. We can remember all of the times in our past that we've been taught that this is red. This colour's red, we know it's red, we've always learnt it's red, right? So the statement of this paint is purple causes our brains to either accept or reject that statement based on the stories of our past. And so if we disagree with the statement that this paint is purple, we are focusing on all of the reasons why we know that to be incorrect. We are focusing on everything that tells us that this paint is red. We're reinforcing those neural pathways, and we're keeping ourselves in the truth that we know, which is that this paint is red. So here's the point. When we make a statement, whether we reject it or accept it, all a statement does is it reinforces our current beliefs. If we were to agree that this paint is purple, we would look at all the stories from our past that tell us that yes, this paint is purple. So we reinforce our belief that this paint is purple. But if we don't believe that this paint is purple, because we know that this paint is red, that's our belief, all we're doing by making the statement of this paint is purple is we're reinforcing that this paint is red. We're reinforcing the belief that this paint is red. So here's the point. If you do an I am affirmation of I am confident and I am abundant and I am wealthy, but you don't agree with those statements on a subconscious level and your belief isn't in line with that statement. If you're saying you're confident but you don't believe you're confident, your brain is going to take that statement, I am confident, is going to look into all of the stories and memories of your past and determine whether it accepts or rejects that statement. Now, if it rejects that statement because you don't believe that you're confident and you're trying to use an I am affirmation to gain confidence, your brain is looking at all the reasons, all the stories and all the memories of your past that reinforce that you are not confident. And where focus goes, energy flows. And understanding law of attraction and understanding manifestation, if you're focusing all of your energy into all of the reasons why you're not confident, what do you think you're going to manifest into your life? The statement of I am confident, if you don't believe it, that is causing you to manifest lack of confidence. It's reinforcing what you already believe. So I am affirmations are extremely dangerous if your belief is not in line with what you're trying to manifest. We've got to recognize this is how our brain handles statements. If we're making statements that we don't believe, we're only reinforcing what we don't believe. Now, there is a way around it. And I I'm a strong advocate of interrogative affirmations. And interrogative affirmations are using our brains, we're working with our brains instead of trying to hit it with a sledgehammer, which is an I am affirmation. I am affirmations are just trying to beat a drum and trying to change something that is resisting against you, right? But interrogative affirmations are using questions and using your brain and using your own programming to actually change what you believe. And so what happens is when you ask your brain a question, intelligent questions, and you ask questions that can only be answered in the positive, what your brain will instead do, it won't accept or reject, it will instead find answers to those questions. So instead you ask yourself things like, let's take this example again, right? You ask yourself a question like, how could this paint be purple? So, well, actually, this paint could be purple by getting blue paint and mixing it with this red paint, and then suddenly this could become purple. So by asking that question, instead of making the statement, which can be rejected and just reinforces our belief that this paint is in fact not purple, this paint is red, but by asking a question of how can this paint be purple, we're shifting our attention into finding answers, finding solutions. Suddenly, we can now see how this paint could be purple. And we can see the solution to make this paint purple. You just get blue paint, you mix it with red paint. Now the paint is purple. We see potential. We see a new future for this paint. And that potential was invisible to us when we just made the statement, because the statement was keeping us trapped in the beliefs and stories of our past. But the intelligent question dials us in to find solutions to create new potential futures. How could I be more confident? Why is it so easy for me to be confident? These are intelligent, interrogative, question-based affirmations that will change the way that our brain sees our past, sees our reality, and sees the potential of the future. So when you ask yourself a question like, why is it so easy for me to be confident? Or how can I start being confident today? Or how do I know that I already have the power within me to be confident? Something like that. Those questions will trigger your brain to find the answers to those questions. And if you're framing the question only in the positive, your brain will find the answers that will fuel new beliefs and create stories and new potential futures. And when you can see yourself in a new potential future as someone who is confident, you started to create new neural pathways that are going to fuel those new beliefs. And when you're fueling new beliefs and you're reinforcing those pathways, that is when a statement like, I am confident, can actually work. Because now you have the foundation. Now you've created a new pathway and a new story and the seeds of a new belief. You've sowed the seeds of a new belief that actually you are confident. Because your brain, when you ask it the question, your brain will give you the answer. It'll say, well, here's all the times in your past that you actually have been confident. So is this belief that we're not confident, is that actually true, or is that just a story? Because we can remember many times that we have been confident. So when I ask, why is it so easy for me to be confident? Well, I've done it before. There's many other people like me that are confident I can think of in life. I'm not that different from them. So maybe I can be confident. And when you've got that new pathway wired in, that new potential future, and you can see that future, that is when a statement-based I am confident affirmation can actually have power. But if you're making I am affirmations and you do not already believe them to be true, you're just keeping yourself trapped in the same reality. So to tie this down, I'll give you a final example that I think really sums up why interrogative, question-based affirmations are so incredibly powerful. So let's say I had here, and drop them all over the place. Let's say I have 2 pens, right? One of these pens, case in point, is broken. The other one is a normal pen. Now, if I make the statement that this pen right, the broken one. This pen is the better of these two pens. I've made a statement. Now, if I make that statement, what does your brain do? So your brain's going to look at the past experiences that you've had in your life, and it's going to determine whether to accept or reject this statement. Now, based on all of our experiences of pens and what makes a pen a good pen, we can pretty safely determine that this pen is not the good pen because it's broken. It's not going to work very well compared to this pen, which is a good pen. It's in good shape and it's going to write and do the job properly. So the statement causes us to stay fixed in our known past, our reality, all the stories and beliefs that we formed of our past, and it stays fixed in the belief, it causes us, to stay fixed in the belief that this pen is the good pen, this pen is not the good pen. However, if I was to ask a question and say, how could this pen be seen as the better pen? That changes everything. Because if I ask myself that question and I look at this pen and I say, okay, well, how could I see this as the better pen? Well, this pen's different. This pen's unique. You know, it's not like this one is just the same as all the other pens, but this one's unique. It's got character. It's got something about it that's making it stand out. Also, it's showing me that, or even asking this question is showing me that how I choose to see this pen is going to dictate whether I see it as the good pen or I see this as the good pen. So maybe this pen is a metaphor for an incredibly powerful lesson. This pen's just a pen. This pen, it can still write. I mean, not as good as this pen, potentially. It can still write, it can still do what a pen does. But in addition, it also acts as a metaphor for an incredibly powerful life lesson that is going to move me forwards in all areas of life. And that lesson is that how I choose to see the world is going to dictate the results that I get. I can choose to see this pen as broken, or I can choose to see this pen as potential for a powerful life lesson. This pen, or your challenges in life, can either be the reasons that you can't or the reasons that you can. Your challenges can be the things that hold you back and prevent you from achieving what you want to achieve, or your challenges can be the very thing that you need to learn, the very lesson that you need to learn to be able to move forwards. So this pen is not just a broken pen, it's a very powerful metaphor. This pen can't be that metaphor, but this pen can be that metaphor. This pen can help you move forwards in life so much more than this pen can. This pen can only write stuff. So I can choose to see this pen in a completely new light. I can choose to see my challenges in a completely new light. I can choose to focus on all the reasons that I am not confident, all the reasons that I am not wealthy, all the reasons that I am not abundant. Or I can choose to ask intelligent questions to reprogram my stories and my beliefs and alter the way I see the world. And if I alter the way that I see the world, I will stop focusing on why this paint is red and stay fixed in the reality of this paint is red, and I will start to see how this paint can be so much more. It can be many different colors, it can be many different things, it can be many different metaphors, right? So ask intelligent questions, change the way that you think, start focusing on solutions, start focusing on all the reasons that you can and all the reasons that you are confident and all the reasons that you are abundant. But that only comes from changing the inner dialogue. Statement affirmations do not change the dialogue. They just reinforce what you already believe. Questions will change what you believe. So make sure to use interrogative affirmations instead of statement affirmations. So if you found this video useful and it's given you some new perspectives and ideas, then remember to share it with other people so that they can get value as well. Also, if you enjoyed the content and you would like a lot more like this, then hit subscribe. You will see that on the screen right now. Then you are going to benefit from a lot more stuff like this regularly, 3 times per week. Thanks for watching. I'll speak to you soon.